I still can't believe I almost died because my own sister thought it would be a hilarious joke. Seriously, tell me, was I wrong for taking every single piece of evidence, every hospital bill, and every ounce of suffering I endured, and presenting it to her like a meticulously itemized receipt? Because that's exactly what I did, and I have zero regrets, even though it practically shattered our family. I mean, who plays a joke that nearly kills someone and expects to get away with it scot-free? Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My sister, Clara, and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's 2 years older than me, and ever since we were kids, she's had this streak of, let's call it mischievousness that often veered into outright cruelty. Our parents always chalked it up to an older sister teasing her younger brother, but it rarely felt like innocent teasing to me. It felt targeted, often humiliating, and sometimes, as you'll soon hear, downright dangerous. I remember one time when I was 7 and she was 9, she convinced me that if I ate enough dirt, I'd turn into a superhero. I ended up with a nasty stomach bug and a fear of gardening. Another time, she helped me with a science project by replacing all the sugar in my volcano experiment with salt, causing it to fizzle out spectacularly in front of the entire class, while she snickered in the back row. Our parents would always tell me to just ignore her, or she doesn't mean it, which only emboldened Clara to continue her little reign of terror. I learned early on that standing up to her rarely worked. It just fueled her desire to push further. So I mostly just learned to endure, to anticipate her next move, and to try and stay out of her way. Fast forward to last year. I'm 28, Clara is 30. I had recently moved into a new apartment, a small but cozy place, just a bit further from our parents' house. I was excited about finally having my own space, a sanctuary away from the chaos of family gatherings and, more specifically, away from Clara's unpredictable antics. I had a severe peanut allergy, not just a get-a-rash kind of allergy, but a full-blown anaphylactic shock-inducing EpiPen, carrying emergency room, visiting kind of allergy. Everyone in our family knew about it. It wasn't a secret. It was a medical fact that dictated a lot of what I could and couldn't eat, especially at family dinners. My parents were always super careful, and even distant relatives would make an effort to ensure no peanuts were present if I was visiting. Clara knew this better than anyone. She had witnessed my reactions multiple times as a kid, had seen me gasp for air, seen the paramedics arrive. It was not something you could easily forget. My new apartment had a housewarming party, a small gathering of friends and family. Clara was, of course, invited. I explicitly told everyone, again, about my allergy and asked them to be mindful of any food they brought. I even put up a small sign on the snack table, "Nut-free zone, please." I had prepared most of the food myself to be absolutely safe, but I welcomed guests to bring drinks or packaged snacks that were clearly labeled. The party was in full swing, music playing, people chatting, a genuinely good vibe. I was having a great time, feeling finally settled in my new place. Around halfway through the evening, Clara approached me with a plate in her hand. On it were what looked like delicious, homemade chocolate chip cookies. She smiled, a little too sweetly, and said, "Hey little bro, I made these just for you, special recipe." Now, I was a bit suspicious. Clara rarely baked, and when she did, it was usually something store-bought she had decorated herself. But these looked genuinely homemade, warm, and inviting. My guard was up, but her smile was disarmingly innocent for once. I asked, "Are these safe? No nuts, right? You know." I trailed off, gesturing to my throat. She laughed, a light, airy sound. "Oh, come on. Do you really think I'd mess with that? Of course, they're safe. I made them specifically with you in mind. See, no nuts visible." She even took a bite from one, chewing it dramatically and saying, delicious, just chocolate." I hesitated for a moment. Part of me, the part that had been burned by her before, screamed danger. But another part, the part that yearned for a normal sibling relationship, wanted to believe her. She was my sister, after all, and she had just eaten one herself. Maybe, just maybe, she was genuinely trying to be nice for once. I took a cookie. It smelled amazing. I took a small bite. It tasted fantastic, rich chocolate, soft texture. And then it hit me, not immediately, but within seconds. That familiar, dreaded tingling on my tongue. A warmth spreading through my mouth, not pleasant, but alarming. My throat started to feel scratchy, then tight. My stomach cramped. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I dropped the cookie. "Clara, what did you do?" I croaked, my voice already starting to constrict. Her smile faltered for a second, then a wider, almost malicious grin spread across her face. "It's a joke. Just a little bit of peanut flour, you won't even notice, just to see your face." My vision started to blur. I felt a surge of heat, then a chill. My chest felt like an elephant was sitting on it. I stumbled back, desperately fumbling for my EpiPen, which I always kept in my pocket. But my hands were shaking violently, my coordination gone. Friends around me, who had overheard her, started shouting. One friend, Sarah, a quick, thinking nurse, grabbed me. "He's having a reaction. Where's his EpiPen?" she yelled. I managed to point weakly to my pocket. She ripped it out, expertly administered the shot into my thigh. The rush of adrenaline and medication was almost immediate, but it wasn't enough. My throat was closing, each breath a desperate, ragged gasp. My skin was hot and blotchy, hives erupting. I felt myself collapsing, losing consciousness. The last thing I remember was Clara's face, not grinning anymore, but why? Died with genuine terror, staring at me as I fell. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have let it go, assuming it was just a terrible mistake? Or would you have held her accountable, even if it meant tearing your family apart? I woke up in the emergency room, hooked up to an Roman 4, oxygen mask on my face, feeling weak, disoriented, and absolutely furious. My parents were there, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. Clara was not. They told me I had gone into full anaphylactic shock, my airways almost completely closed. If Sarah hadn't been there, or if the ambulance had been even a few minutes later, I wouldn't have made it. The doctors had to intubate me for a short period to ensure my breathing stabilized. I spent 2 days in the hospital, recovering, being monitored, and slowly getting my strength back. During those 2 days, my anger simmered and then boiled over. This wasn't a harmless prank. This wasn't a joke. This was attempted murder, or at the very least, criminal negligence that could have easily resulted in my death. And it was perpetrated by my own sister, who knew the full extent of my allergy. My parents tried to downplay it. "She didn't mean it, honey. She was just being silly. She panicked when she saw you collapse." They made excuses, as they always did. But this time it was different. This wasn't a ruined science project. This was my life almost ending. I looked at my parents, their faces pleading with me to understand, to forgive, and I saw years of enabling, years of letting Clara get away with everything. It was in that hospital bed, surrounded by the sterile white walls and the incessant beeping of machines, that I made a decision. No more letting her off the hook. No more, she didn't mean it. This time, she would face the consequences of her actions. I started meticulously documenting everything, every single hospital bill, the ambulance ride, the ER visit, the 2 nights in the hospital, the follow-up appointments, the new prescriptions for a stronger EpiPen 2. It all added up. I requested copies of my medical records, detailing the severity of my reaction. I even got a police report filed, though my parents begged me not to. The police advised me that while it was a serious incident, proving intent to cause harm beyond a prank gone wrong would be difficult without Clara admitting it, but they did take a statement and note the incident. I also saved the remaining pieces of the cookie and sent them to a lab for analysis, which confirmed the presence of a significant amount of peanut protein. The total cost of my medical treatment alone was astronomical, well over $15,000, even with insurance covering a portion. And that didn't account for the emotional trauma, the days of lost wages, the sheer terror I experienced. I painstakingly organized every single document into a neat, professional-looking binder, complete with an itemized spreadsheet detailing each expense. I even included a printout of the police report and the lab results. A week after I was discharged, and after multiple ignored calls from Clara, I finally arranged a family meeting at our parents' house. Clara was there, looking sullen and defiant, as if she were the victim. My parents sat between us, looking like they were presiding over a peace treaty. The air was thick with tension. I walked in, carrying my binder, and placed it squarely on the coffee table. Clara scoffed. "What's that, your diary?" she sneered. I looked her dead in the eye, my voice calm but firm. "No, Clara, this is your bill." I opened the binder and began to present my case, like a prosecutor. I started with the lab results, explaining how much peanut protein was in her joke cookies. I then moved to the police report, outlining the potential legal ramifications of her actions. And finally, I laid out every single medical bill, reading out the amounts, line by line. Ambulance services, $1, $200, emergency room visit, $3, $500, 2 nights in intensive care and observation, $8, $0, follow-up consultations, $500, new EpiPen prescriptions, 2 doses, $600. I continued, detailing every single cent. The silence in the room was deafening. My parents looked horrified, their faces paling as the numbers stacked up. Clara, initially scoffing, slowly turned a shade of sickly green. Her defiant smirk vanished, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief, then anger, then something that looked suspiciously like fear. When I finished, the total was over $15,000. I closed the binder and looked at her. "So, Clara," I said, "that's your bill for your joke. You put my life in danger, you caused me immense suffering, and you put me through hell. I expect full reimbursement for all medical expenses, lost wages, and a reasonable sum for emotional distress. Let's say around $20,000 to cover everything." Clara finally found her voice, a sputtering, indignant protest. "You're insane. I'm not paying you a dime. It was a joke. I didn't mean to hurt you." My mother started crying. "Sweetie, you can't do this to your sister. She apologized. She's sorry." My father tried to mediate. "Son, let's talk about this rationally. We can't ask Clara to pay this much." I cut them off. "She apologized when, after I almost died, and as for not meaning to hurt me, she knowingly put a severe allergen into food she gave to someone with a life-threatening allergy. That's not a joke. Mom and Dad, that's reckless endangerment. If she were a stranger, she'd be facing criminal charges. The only reason she's not is because she's family, and I'm choosing a different path for now." I looked directly at Clara. "You want to play dangerous games, fine, but now you're going to pay the price, literally. If you don't agree to a payment plan, I will pursue this legally. I have all the evidence I need." The confrontation escalated into a shouting match. Clara called me vindictive, heartless, and selfish. My parents tried to guilt-trip me, saying I was tearing the family apart, but I held my ground. I calmly reiterated my stance, pointing back to the binder, to the facts. The evidence was irrefutable. Eventually, after hours of arguing, tears, and threats from both sides, a tense agreement was reached. Clara, under immense pressure from my father, who realized I wasn't backing down, agreed to pay me back the full $15,000 in medical expenses over the next year. She absolutely refused to acknowledge any emotional distress of payment, and at that point, I just wanted the financial burden lifted. It wasn't about the money for me, not entirely. It was about accountability. It was about her finally understanding the gravity of her actions. The aftermath has been exactly as you might expect. Our family is shattered. Clara barely speaks to me, and when she does, it's with venom. She's making her payments begrudgingly, often late, always with a bitter comment. My parents are stuck in the middle, constantly trying to broker peace that isn't coming. They still try to make excuses for Clara, but their tone has shifted. There's a new understanding in their eyes about the seriousness of what happened. I've essentially cut Clara out of my life, except for the necessary interactions regarding the payments. It's a painful outcome, losing a sibling, but I honestly feel like I chose my life over her idea of a joke. It's a sad reality, but sometimes protecting yourself means drawing a line in the sand, even if that line cuts through your own family. So, that's my story. It's been a rough journey, but I'm alive, and I stood up for myself. I still carry my EpiPens everywhere, and I'm even more cautious about what I eat. But I also carry a sense of empowerment, knowing I finally broke the cycle of letting Clara get away with everything. Like this video if you were on my side in this whole mess. Subscribe for more stories like this, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole ordeal in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.